Leadership. I'm Beth Bergen. I'm an internationally awarded leadership and communication coach, and I'm here each Tuesday live. It gives you guys an opportunity to ask questions about all things leadership, but it also gives you the chance to let me know if there are particular topics that you would like to see me cover. Thank you, everyone, for the great feedback. I had some awesome feedback about last week's chat, which was all about, setting boundaries and particularly that process of saying no, which can be a really difficult thing to do. What really resonated with people is that in order to, or a benefit of saying no on a regular basis is that you get more opportunities to say yes to the things that you really want to be doing. So this week, this is something that is often discussed, and there's a real power in it, and that is the power of proximity. And what we know is that there's a famous quote that talks about, we are the sum of the 5 or 6 people that we spend the most time with, and we also know that there's another very firm belief that if you're the smartest person in the room, then it's a good idea to get another room. Today, I really want to turn that on its head a little. I'm thinking about what's involved for you as being a leader in your own life, and whether that's personally at home away from your professional life, or whether it is at work in your professional life. It's about today what I want to look at. Who might you need to be aware of so that you can step back from them a little bit, or perhaps even look at weeding them out. So these are the people or the types of people that may be doing you more harm than good in both our personal and our professional lives. So, perhaps they serve us in one way, but what we need to be aware of, particularly as an aspiring and an existing leader, what we need to be aware of is that our friendships, our connections, the relationships we have, both at home and in our professional lives, need to actually serve us, because our emotional well-being is important, whether it's at home or whether it's at work. So let's explore that. I think I've got 8 or 9 different types of behavior that I'd really encourage you to be looking out for. The first one of these is someone who is consistently negative. They don't need any encouragement from you to be negative. They're just always negative, and so they give you nothing positive. And very often, what these people do is they drain our energy, and that has a negative impact on us, and it can actually set us back a whole lot. If what we're doing is spending time around people who are constantly and consistently negative, and that's where their thinking always goes, it doesn't take very long for that to rub off on us. And those of you who've worked with me or heard conversations that I've had around mental fitness know that our mental fitness, which is our ability to be able to determine what are the positives in any situation that we're faced with, our mental fitness is impacted by what we're hearing, what we're doing, what we're surrounded with. So think about those people and start to identify them in your life. Now, I guess what I should have said before I started mentioning these is a technique around noticing what you're noticing. So notice what you are noticing and just make a wee note in your mind, need to watch out for that, and see if that becomes their preferred way of behaving, because once I've identified that as a self leader, I can take some ownership responses that I have to that behavior and the actions that I take moving forward. Okay, so the second thought for you to second type of or sort of behavior for you to look out for is gossipers. These are the people who come to you and they've got the latest info on everyone else. They may or may not be true. It may or may not be true. What gossiping does is it violates trust. What it means is that if someone's told them something and is trusting them, they're actually violating that trust. And gossip also stirs up and really creates drama. It creates misunderstandings. What are they going to be saying about you when your back is turned? So this is something for you to really be aware of. And there are a number of strategies that you can use to close the gossipers down. Something as simple as, I'm not interested in hearing any more about others. I'll make my own mind up. I'll take them at face value. But something to actually stop the gossip so that the person understands clearly that this isn't a behavior that you will tolerate. It draws a line in the sand. It's another way of saying no or establishing a boundary. The third sort are energy drainers. You know how someone comes into a room and they're like a vampire, they just suck all the energy up. And when they're really exhausted, they actually start to dump on you. And just as with those constant complainers, it sucks up your energy and it has an impact on you. And often you're the person, as the leader, you're the person that has to deal with that. Now, whether this is someone who is higher up in the hierarchy than you are in your professional life or is lower down, you're still going to have to manage that energy vampire. So notice what you're noticing, take a bit of a step back, and when you're able to confirm that this is a consistent behavior on their part, then you'll be able to look to develop, what are my strategies to actually be able to deal with this? And that's where working with a coach or a mentor, someone like that, will really be able to help you. The fourth sort of behavior for you to start to notice and consider stepping away from is self-importance. Now, this is where there's a lot of self-promotion going on. And if you're working in a really competitive environment, you can look at a lot of this behavior and going, would never behave like that. It's awful. And yet sometimes you see these people being promoted. Every single conversation is turned back to them, to their life, to their achievements, to their issues. The focus is always on them. Now, I know that this can really turn you off, but what I'd encourage you to do is to look at aspects of this person's behavior that may serve you in some way, particularly if you're looking to build your power base in your professional life and you're wanting to be sure that people higher up the tree are noticing the good work that you're doing. You don't have to do it their way. Don't have to do it their way, but see the positive for yourself that comes out of that. Now, what's important here for you to also be looking for is that often with someone who is full of self-importance, where everything is about them, there's nothing reciprocal. So you don't get anything back from them. Notice their behavior, notice what you're noticing, and just shift them over a little bit so they're not taking up too much of your time. The fifth one is what I call the flopper. Some people refer to this person as a fair weather colleague or a fair weather friend. They're there when things are going well. They're there if they think that some of your, some of your success can be used by them. If they can, if the sun's shining on you, some of that can shine on them as well. All of those kinds of statements. But you know what? Your flopper isn't actually going to be there when things get tough. When things get tough and you need someone standing behind you and supporting you and giving you some moral support and lifting you up or helping you to deal with whatever's going on, your flopper has often disappeared. So again, notice what you're noticing. The sixth one is the person who is constantly critical. Constantly critical. What happens is that they give it to you as feedback and tell you that they're just being honest. I'm just being honest with you. Now, some feedback is always good, but there's a difference between constructive criticism and just this being constantly overcritical, constantly negative. Negative about your clothes, negative about your decisions, negative about your choices, negative about your ideas, negative about the way you presented something. So they're constantly negative. Now, what happens is that starts to lift your stress level and lower your self-esteem, because it doesn't matter what you do, it's never actually going to be good enough. It's never going to be good enough. And from your perspective, both in your professional and your personal life, it's vital that you develop strategies to be able to overcome this. Yeah? Number 7, these are the people who overpromise or who can't say no to you, or who assure you, yes, they'll come to that event. Yes, they'll get that work done on a particular time. Yes, yes, yes. And who never actually deliver on those promises. So they break those promises. They break deadlines. They break standards. They're often really last minute. They're unreliable. And there's an instability about them. Now, how you deal with those in your personal life is probably quite different from how you might choose to deal with them in your professional life. What's important for you professionally is that you notice what you are noticing, and you remind yourself that this isn't someone that you can necessarily rely on in those last minute activities, when you're on deadlines, when you're operating so that you've actually got a promise or a deadline where your reputation is likely to be damaged and you're wanting your team to support you in doing this. It may be useful for you to give this person the opportunity to do something into a deadline that's not quite so concrete. Give them the opportunity to prove themselves and have a look at the way you're communicating what you need to them. But notice that they're potentially unreliable and that they can create greater stress because it's often last minute when they do deliver, and perhaps it isn't at the standard that you're used to from them. Okay? Next one. One-sided. This is someone who's always there, looking for your input, looking for your support, looking for your time. They're reaching out to you when things are tough for them. They're reaching out to you when they need something from you. And it's one-sided because it's all one way. What we know is that to collaborate and be working together in a team in your professional life, whether it's you working with members of your team, whether it's you working horizontally with your peers, whether it's you working up, you know that it works best when there's collaboration. You know that it works best when you're working together and you're supporting each other and that it's reciprocal. Look out for those people who want to use up your time, your energy, your ideas, your support, and who magically just don't seem to be there when you need them. The final one, I think it's the 9th one, that the final one is toxic behaviors. Now, again, there'll be some differences between how you might deal with this in your personal life and in your professional life. But what we're looking at here are the words, the actions that consistently or in consistent bursts are harmful and destructive. The kinds of behaviors that puts everyone on edge, that makes everyone stressed and feeling inferior, that lifts the rate of anxiety, and that lowers your self-worth and your self-belief. Those kinds of behaviors are going to impact everyone. They're patterns of behavior that can be left, if they're left to fester rather, they can be really damaging. Now, it's not always easy to deal with toxic behaviors, and bullying is a great example of that. It's not always easy to deal with it. But I say to my clients all the time, you need to have the tricky conversation before things get too tough, before they get out of control. So this is the kind of thing where you need to be prepared to say, hey, that was a little inappropriate. That kind of behavior isn't something that we tolerate or that I tolerate. You need to be prepared to call that out. Now, obviously, if it continues in your personal life, you might want to think about ending the friendship. And this doesn't just relate to toxic behaviors, it relates to all of the 9 that we talked about this morning. You may want to think about ending the friendship, and that's not always particularly easy. In a professional sense, notice what you're noticing and put some distance between yourself and some of this behavior where you can. If you can't and you're in a position where you're able to utilize a coaching style of leadership, then see if you can bring it to their attention and look to change that. There may be other training that you can plug them into, other resources that you can plug them into. If it continues, think about what services you have or what supports you have within your organization. And again, it depends on, is it someone that you're managing, or is it one of your higher up managers? There may be HR. There may be other opportunities to plug them into training and development, some professional development that would serve them. But also, it might be that you need some support through internal employee support programs that will help you to manage it better, or perhaps you need some coaching and mentoring. What all of this comes down to is that your well-being is vital to your success as a leader, a self-leader, a leader in your family, your community, and the organization or business that you work in. Look for others who are going to replace those who are consistently behaving in any of these 9 ways that I've talked about today, and seek out coaches and mentors who are going to be able to help you to confirm what your observations are and start to help you with strategies to be able to more confidently communicate and deal with it. Thank you so much. If you have any questions at all, pop them underneath this. If you're watching the replay, hashtag replay, and please reach out to me if there is a topic that you would like me to share with you. I'm more than happy to actually follow that up for you. So appreciate you being here, appreciate you watching this, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye now.